Welcome to the Hoosier Gridiron Report, episode 13 on YouTube and IndianaHighSchoolSports.com. Excited to bring you episode 13. A couple more shows left here in this 2025 high school football season. Today's episode is presented and driven, as always, by Tom Wood Nissan, just east of Keystone off 96th Street, across from the Wawa. Tom Wood Nissan has 0% APR for 60 months on 2025 Nissan Pathfinders and Muranos, 1.9% APR for 60 months on 2026 Nissan Rogues and 2025 Frontiers. Visit Tom Wood Nissan on 96th Street or at tomwoodnissan.com. So episode 13, I'm your host, Mitch Stevens, excited to bring you today's conversation coming off of week two, actually coming off of sectional championship matchups around the state. So this is the show that'll bring you a quick game of the week recap for the previous Friday night, typically a game that we covered on a live stream broadcast here on IndianaHighSchoolSports.com, as well as conversations with coaches and analysts around the state each week. Today we are recapping the 4A sectional championship between Bishop Chatard and Roncalli, and taking a quick look at some scores and upcoming sectional matchups that we have for this Friday. And we will be joined by two special guests today: Whiteland head coach Darrin Fisher and Triton Central's Tim Abel will be on chatting with us for a little bit here today. Before we get into the recap, I'd like to invite you to visit IndianaHighSchoolSports.com on your weekends, and as we head into basketball season, throughout the week for live streams of big games and recaps from around the state. Of course, the live stream of the show you're watching right now can be found on IndianaHighSchoolSports.com after the episode has aired as well. It'll be on there so you can go back and visit these shows. This site began in 2020. It's continued to grow with 3 broadcasting crews covering Indianapolis and Muncie. So if you can't get enough of Indiana High School Sports, bookmark this site for your Friday and Saturday nights in the fall and all throughout the winter for high school basketball as well. So getting into the recap, Chatard and Roncalli. This was it's a rivalry matchup. The game was at Bishop Chatard. The Trojans knocked off Roncalli 33-11 in the regular season, and Roncalli completely flipped the script on their rivals on the road, winning 26-6. So the Royals captured the sectional title on Chatard's field, and it was a game that Roncalli really dominated from start to finish. They did an excellent job of bottling up City Offensive Player of the Year Danny Adams and stopping Chatard and really anything they wanted to do in the running game and just offensively in general. And they came up with a couple key timely interceptions, 2 Jack Harrington interceptions in the first half. One of them led directly to a Roncalli touchdown. And Colin Ash, senior starting quarterback for the Royals, was outstanding. He did it all. He ran all over Chatard, did a great job running that read option. And when they did take shots, he did not miss them in the passing game as well. And this game was 13-0 Roncalli early on in the game, and Chatard got the ball near midfield. This was really the one time where we felt that maybe some momentum was going to flip back to Chatard. Harrington found Julio Graves for a 50-yard completion, got him down to the 2-yard line. That set up a Danny Adams touchdown run. But it was kind of the theme of the entire night for Chatard. Whenever they got something going, there was a mistake, a miscue, a big play they let up right after it that kind of regained the momentum for Roncalli. So after that touchdown, it was 13-6, and Chatard got an unnecessary roughness penalty after the touchdown. So it forced them to try the extra point from 15 yards back. The extra point was no good, so it felt a little bit deflating, like it should have been 13-7 instead 13-6. Roncalli then went down and kicked a field goal to make it a 10-point game at the end of the first half. From there, Chittard, they trailed 16-6 at the half, and you were thinking there's, as bad as the first half has gone, they're still in this game. They had their best drive probably of the game to start the second half. They went right down the field, but then a holding penalty set them up with a 1st and 20. Roncalli's defense did another great job of getting a stop, forced another field goal attempt. So the field goal attempt would have made it a 16-9 game. That field goal was missed, and it just, you felt all of the air come out of the stadium. You could see on the Trojan sideline a lot of frustration, even, early to mid third quarter, that, Roncalli really was kind of in their heads and got had their number at least last Friday night. Now, what we will say for Rob Doyle's Chittard team, they started 16 juniors this season. So many thought this was their best opportunity to win a 4A state championship. Certainly, they'll lose some key impact players, one of those being offensive lineman and all-city player Zion Haney, who's headed to play at Ball State next year. So best of luck to him with his next season. An outstanding congrats on an outstanding career. They'll lose seniors like that, but they have 16 guys that were starters and will be back. One of those guys that's not within those 16 starters is junior Harrison Odom. He will be the starting quarterback as a senior. So Chittard will be back, but congratulations to Roncalli with an outstanding victory, 26-6 on the road. They move on to the next round after winning a sectional championship. So Roncalli will be playing against Yorktown, as every class is down to 8 teams remaining. The winner of that Roncalli Yorktown game will get the winner of Heritage Hills and Martinsville in semi-state. So Indianapolis is being represented by Roncalli in 4A. Looking around a few of the other sectional matchups here, as we'll get ready for our guest to come in here shortly. So in 6A, we have Brownsburg knocking off Avon. Now, Avon gave them a great game in the regular season, falling just short 55-47. Brownsburg took care of them a little bit easier this time, moving on to another sectional championship for the defending state champions. So Brownsburg gets Decatur Central, first time in 6A for Decatur Central after winning the 5A state championship last year. So a rematch of state champions twice in this season now for Decatur Central. So in the regular season, they had New Pal in a game that was a rematch between 4A and 5A state champs. That game we had here on IndianaHighSchoolSports.com. New Pal came out with a relatively easy victory when it was all said and done, but starting quarterback for Decatur Central, Bo Polston, was out. Since he's been back, they have been rolling through their schedule. They had a really tough game in the sectional championship, as is the case for a lot of these championship games against Lawrence Central. They were able to hold on, for a close win over Will Patterson's team there and moving on. So Decatur Central and Brownsburg will be a great matchup. Center Grove hangs on to win 30-27 over Franklin Central. They will have a dogfight on their hands against Warren Central in the regional matchup. And then Westfield gets Fishers. Congrats to Coach Josh Miracle on the upset victory over Carmel, 23-20 in overtime for Westfield. So they have an opportunity now, do the Shamrocks, to get back to the state championship, potentially with a rematch with Brownsburg. There's 8 teams left, so there's a lot of football still left to play, just speculating here. But a little bit of a shock around the state, as Carmel has been so good. They beat Westfield 34-10 in the regular season, but the Shamrocks get an incredible last-second 4th down conversion in overtime to win the game 23-20. In 5A, other key matchups. So New Pal came up with a huge victory over Indianapolis Cathedral, 20-15. That game started with New Pal running the opening kickoff back 96 yards on their home field for a touchdown in front of 4,000 plus fans. So an electric atmosphere throughout the entire game. Cathedral gave the New Palestine Dragons their best fight of the entire season, ultimately falling 20-15. New Pal will get East Central, who 2 years ago beat the Dragons 49-0 in semi-state. So a little bit of revenge on the table for Kyle Ralph's team. And New Pal, if they were to move on to semi-state, they would have the winner of Bloomington South and Floyd Central. We already talked a bit about 4A. In 3A, Cascade keeps their undefeated season rolling with a 28-point victory over Darrin. They get Lawrenceburg in the next round. We have Indian Creek from the Hoosier Legends Conference that has moved on, and they get a sectional championship, and they have a really tough matchup with Gibson Southern. In 2A, we have Indianapolis Lutheran just barely gets the victory over Heritage Christian, and our friend Caleb Brink, who was on the show this past week, 28-24. So let's see, Lutheran moves on. They're having an outstanding season. And congratulations to Coach Brink and his team. They fall just short of a sectional championship, but a lot of positives to take from his first season as head coach of the program. Triton Central fell to Lapel 28-15. They were down 21-0 in that game and fought back, made it close, but Lapel, the Bulldogs, get the sectional championship in that one. And in 1A, we have Sheridan knocking off Cloverdale, so they get another sectional championship to add to a storied program there. And we'll have to update you on some of our the picks for myself and Brad, and how many of those teams are still alive. But we're gonna check in on this on the waiting room. I think we might be having some guest connectivity issues, so bear with us here. All right, so we're working through some guest issues here. So we're what's this, episode 13? We're about 10 for 13 on clean operations with our guests hopping right on. So for the first year of the show, I think that's about as good as we can ask. We're checking in on this and making sure that Coach Fisher and Abel are still good to go for a conversation here. And in the meantime, we will go ahead and take a look at that episode that Brad and I ended up doing before the playoffs. So this was 5 weeks into the season where we made our predictions here. Let's see here. And the rules were 1 point for a semi-state appearance, 2 points for a state finalist, 5 points for a champion. And I'm looking to see here. Okay, so Brad has New Pal in 5A. He has Brownsburg in 6A. Heritage Hills in 4A. So he's got all three of those schools are still alive. Evansville Memorial in 3A for Brad. And we'll be having Brad back on before the state championship games, excuse me. So let's see. Evansville Memorial was one of the best teams in the state throughout the season, but they ran into a really good Gibson Southern team, so they are now knocked out. 2A Adams Central is who Brad had as well. Let's take a look here. Adams Central is still alive. And then let's see, so Adams Central in 2A, they've gotten victories over Central Noble, Bluffton, and then they just won their sectional championship over Eastside. Adams Central gets Eastbrook in the regional championship for 2A. And if they win that game, they will meet Andrian or Southmont in the semi-state 2A matchup there. And then if we look at the 1A teams, North Decatur for Brad, and yours truly had Springs Valley. And it looks like both of us. Yep, so North Decatur fell to Milan in the sectional championship. And I'm not even seeing my Springs Valley pick. They fell to Providence, who is still alive in the regional matchup. So both of our 1A teams are out. And then for my picks, I ended up going with Chittard in 4A and Cathedral in 5A. So both those picks are done. We have Decatur Central going up against Brownsburg, with me being on the Decatur Central side. So I'm the underdog in that one as well, but I do still have Lapel and Cascade in 2A and 3A respectively. So regional time of the year, a lot of really good matchups coming up. We are still working through some technical issues here and might need to postpone the conversations as we try to work through some things here with Coach Fisher and with Coach Abel. So thank you to everyone for tuning in, getting the update around the state on what's going on here with high school football and with our coverage on IndianaHighSchoolSports.com. We'll keep everyone posted as to the next conversations that we're going to have. We will be having some more conversations with girls flag football coaches. We want to continue highlighting that sport. Like I said, we've had some issues here with the Zoom and with Coach Fisher and Abel being able to join us. Next week, we are going to have Kenzie Brown from Warren Central and Vance Irwin from Bishop Chittard. So next week, that is November 16th, 11:30 a.m. will be the live start time for that. So Coach Brown and Coach Irwin are girls flag football coaches. So we'll have them for the 16th. The following weekend, we'll have Brad Huber. We'll be talking semi-state recaps and state championship previews. And then the 30th, so that Thanksgiving weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, depending on how things shake out scheduling wise, will be the final episode of the season for the Hoosier Gridiron Report. We'll be wrapping up the season and talking about how those state championship games went. And then we may try to squeeze in a conversation still with Coach Fisher and Coach Abel, if they're able to make it work here. So we apologize for the confusion there and not having those guys on. We'll also keep everybody updated as to the next broadcast. We'll be doing a ton of basketball games throughout the season on IndianaHighSchoolSports.com. And of course, after all of this to set up that we were going to wrap up the show, we do now have Coach Abel with the ability to join, and he's on the Zoom. So take back everything I just said, and we're going to let Coach Abel into the Zoom. Coach, you able to hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for joining. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Just left my daughter's house for trying to get everything done there today. We could.
Okay, I gotcha. I won't. Well, I appreciate you making time, and congratulations on a great season. Obviously, for Triton Central, you have 5 sectional championships there. You've been in that championship game time and time again as almost like a bare minimum standard for how much success you've had. So obviously, not the ending that you wanted, but talk about the positives from the season and what you're most proud of from this group.
Well, there's no doubt our kids played hard every game. We had spots in each game that we had to play 4 quarters in, and just weren't effective for 4 quarters. And but this week we played the best team we played all year with Lapel, and those kids were really good. But we had all kinds of opportunities, and we just didn't take advantage of them.
Yeah, and speaking on that lapel game, a really good team. It's had, the Bulldogs, they've had an outstanding season themselves, but you fall down 21 points in that game, but you're right back in it and within a possession later in the game. So talk about some of the resiliency you saw from your guys that you probably saw, all year, but especially against that good of an opponent.
Well, we lost our best receiver in the first half and also a good defensive back in Zeke Robertson. He broke a collarbone making a tackle, and that put a wrinkle in our system because we lean heavily on him and Braden Brown, our running back. And so we went through the scenario of putting Braden as receiver some because of that scenario, and when you haven't practiced that, that makes it a little bit more difficult. But Braden did get a touchdown catch to get us within one, and we had opportunities. Like I said, we just couldn't find a way to make it happen. And credit to their defense, they found ways to stop us, and just want to just look back and be proud of these kids. They won a conference championship. They played hard each and every week. We were in a lot of adverse situations, and they always found a way to get over the top, but just couldn't get it done this week.
Yeah, and for this or looking ahead to next year's group, obviously, with any program, you're going to lose some seniors that are important to in terms of leadership, in terms of the culture of the team. But you've been at Triton Central for a long time, and a lot of that can stay. So, what are you excited about for the returning class and looking ahead into the 2026 season?
We were a heavy junior and senior team, but we had a nice JV team that has a lot of young kids that have a lot of upside. And the off season, I shouldn't say off season, the out of season workouts are going to be important that they gain the strength. The young guys, that freshman to sophomore year is oftentimes a huge strength gain. So we're going to be counting on those kids. We got good numbers in those classes, and we lost obviously some senior athletes, some senior linemen, but we get back quite a bit of kids that are the core of our next year's team. They're going to be just like going into this year. People were saying that we were going to be in the middle of the pack kind of a team, and ended up losing one game by a touchdown, another game by just a little bit more. So, um, we've always rebuilt. Uh, but more than that, we usually reloaded, and we're going to try to do that again.
So obviously you were aware of people saying that your team was going to be kind of middle of the pack. You've been doing this for a long time though. Does that motivate you, or is it just kind of like whatever they say is what they're going to say?
Well, let the kids know when we'll talk about it that way, and so it helps motivate them too. It's kind of like the big brother thing. You always want to be better than your oldest brother, and that's what a traditional winning football program does. They come back the next year wanting to prove, The seniors, when they graduate, go, "Oh, you're going to miss us." Yeah, we're right. We are going to miss you, but we always seem to find a way to fill in the gaps, and we're planning on doing it again next year.
Absolutely. And it comes to the winning pedigree for you, Coach Abel. Obviously, a lot of success at Triton Central, but this is your fifth school that you've been a head coach at. So multiple different places that you've seen success. Um, Reaching the pinnacle back at East Noble in 2000 with a 4A state championship victory. I know that's in your obviously top moments as a head coach. Talk about that experience, how fulfilling it was to get all the way to the top of Indiana high school football, and talk about maybe how this program at Triton Central could get there in the near future as well.
Well, that was a dream team. Our school was not traditionally a strong football school at East Noble, and we had a class that was undefeated all the way through there. When they became seniors, they won a state championship, but they won it in eighth grade when they started coming to the weight room, and ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. 4 years of really paying attention to the details in the weight room. The year before, as juniors, we won our first sectional school's history. But once again, we graduated 15 really good seniors. So we weren't sure that we could fill in all those gaps. But again, hard work in the off season. And when you have a senior oriented team, we basically had three underclassmen playing and on the offense and defense. So we reloaded pretty good and just had an amazing season. We stayed healthy. We did have a couple injuries, but both of them, or three of them that actually occurred, they happened at perfect timing where one would be out, one back in, and so we were able to. Again, that's been a bugaboo here at Triton Central. Jay Stuckey plays at Eastern Michigan. His junior year, we had 6 2A starters hurt, and Jace was playing with 102 temperature, and we got beat by a touchdown by Mater Dei. So we've been close. I just know how many things have got to go your way. You got to stay healthy. You got to play the right team, have good matchups, and all that kind of stuff. So we were fortunate that year, but again, we had some elite athletes. We had two all-stars on our team. David Gator just went in the Hall of Fame. He was our quarterback. He's an outstanding player, he's an outstanding athlete, state runner, number 6 in 100 or 200, and number 8 in the 200 or 100. He was a 200 stud, but he slipped out of the box in 100 and still got 8. So passed up a couple of kids after slipping out. But he was a dynamic player that could run fast. He was the best player in the state championship that year, all classes combined. He scored a touchdown by blocking a punt, by catching, or by throwing one, by running one, and he also had his 13th interception of the season in the game. So he was very a dominant player in that game. But obviously, our other people are important. Ed Conley, our center, was the other all-star. We had monster guys, linebackers, Matt Castellani, Tyler Knox, great lineman, Jordan Lawrence. On defense, Ryan Everidge. A lot of quality kids that, they just paid attention to details and did everything you want them to do on and off the field.
Yeah, obviously there's so much that you can do as the coach to impact the wins and losses, but when you have some of the guys that you listed and just a player that's scoring in every way possible, that at a certain point you can't go out there and make the plays for them. So that's going to be a huge factor towards being able to win those big games that come November, right?
Yeah, you can create opportunities, but the kids have got to take advantage of it. And also, off the field is huge. Getting proper rest. In this day and age, back in 2000, there were no cell phones. There were not near the distractions that the kids have nowadays. There's just such a tough burden for the kids to avoid and say no to things and get that off field film work, get that off field studying the game plan and studying the opponent and getting ready for the game. So all those things are factors now that maybe weren't in 2000. But again, it's there's so many moments that are important on along the way, and that's the staying healthy and keeping your kids out of trouble and all that kind of stuff. But we've always been successful that way as far as keeping kids out of trouble. We just want to keep that up for another year and see if we can't get back where we were this year and farther.
Yeah, you shared with me ahead of this conversation, just that concept that you talk about with your guys, that every day you get better or worse. Nothing in life is static. It either gets better or worse, right? In football and in life. So obviously that's going to be a key part of the approach for you guys between now and 2026. Who are some guys on your team? And it's hard to list everybody, but maybe if you were to single out a couple guys that you feel like really embody that mentality of just always working to get better and that have kind of stood out in that way over the past year for you.
Well, the guys that are coming back, quarterback Matthew Wilkins, who's had a couple injuries and actually got hurt in the game this week, is obviously quarterback and very outstanding athlete, great quarterback. Had a couple injuries and missed 3.5 games, and then also got hurt in the fourth quarter. So he's somebody that we're going to, when you go into any season, we got experienced quarterback. That really helps a lot. This was his first varsity season, and there's always a big step from junior varsity to varsity. But on our line scrimmage, we had Kellen Dishman as a 3-year starter. He also had a shoulder injury this year, and will be back. That was a key to our success earlier in the year, but when he got hurt, that made a little wrinkle in our game plans, and he's definitely a person. Then we have Wyatt Biles, another athlete that was on the offensive and defensive side. He's a sophomore, that's very strong, one of the strongest kids that I've coached, especially at that age. And he's a great worker in the weight room and a great leader. Our defensive backfield probably going to be our place where we're going to replace the most seniors at. And we got some kids that can play that, but they're going to have to really step that up because we've had such guys with 2 and 3 years of experience back there. And our inside linebackers were young. Ty Bergman led our team in tackling, but he did a fine job there. And then also we have Landon. He goes by, the kids call him Laz Ball. He's another inside linebacker that's a sophomore that's going to be a key to our success. So we got a lot of kids that's had some good experience, sectional championship experience, playing really good teams, and they're going to be back and ready to roll. Obviously, I can't forget Henry Kemper had a great game in this tournament, had 96 yards on receptions against Lapel, and plays defensive back and a receiver. And probably next year he may play some running back because he's was actually, as a freshman, played running back for 3 games as a starter. He's that kind of athlete. He, so probably name that he played some this year, but he actually played half of the game at quarterback. So it was neat for him to see him come in an adverse situation in a second half of ball game and hand off the ball. He knew our offense enough that he could do it, and we were right there, 1 yard away from tying up Lebanon, and that was one of the regular season games that we lost on the very last play. So those guys are all people we can depend on. We know right now, but always there's a lot of other kids who maybe didn't get to play as much this year, but were really good on our scout team, going against a real good first team of offense and defense, and that showed in JV games, and they're going to be quite helpful in making us better next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, a lot to look forward to from everything you just listed for next year. And that's always the case when I ask any coach to highlight a couple players. You never want to stop because there's something that you love about every guy that you coach. Last thing I wanted to ask you here, Coach Abel, and again appreciate your time here today. Talk a little bit about the program. Wanted to ask you just a general message for the parents. Multiple schools now, a couple decades of head coaching experience. What would you say to the parents is, here are a couple things that I hope you see in your son as a result of having, worked with myself and my staff?
Well, I would say many things, but we really do stress academics first. We talk about that daily, usually in our warm-ups, at dynamics warm-ups. We always face the school and say academics first. And you know what you emphasize, you usually get. We traditionally have 6 to 8 kids, depending on the season year, in our top 15 in our classes. So we just always have a group of kids that are dedicated to academics and athletics. The next thing would be is prioritize the weight room. You know, the kids uh, have so many things going on. I mean, now you've got stuff like uh, computer games that are actually part of college curriculum now, esports. And so they've got to adjust their times to the different activities that are available, but they still got to find times to get weight room before school, after school, or after their activity right after school. So that's something that's got to continue to be part of the culture and part of what's stressed. Our kids basically live up to what we expect, and I'm sure that this next year's team will be no different than those in the past.
For sure. Well, Coach, we'll be following along. We had a couple Triton Central games on IndianaHighSchoolSports.com this past year. I'm sure that'll be the case again in 2026. And again, really appreciate your time here and wish your program the best of luck moving forward and into the 2026 season.
Well, thank you much. We're in Kentucky now, so that's why it probably went in and out. We're going through the hills and hollers of Kentucky. We just left Tennessee. So thanks for having us on. Thanks for coming to our games. It's always fun. We enjoy whenever our kids get extra PR and games on that are live on TV or on the computers. And just keep it up. High school sports need people like yourselves.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, safe travels. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Will do. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.